In the collective push for a better Nigeria, National Council of State, NCS, and Nigeria Governors Forum, NGF, at separate meetings yesterday passed a vote of confidence on the 14-month-old administration of President Bola Tinubu. NCS, comprising past presidents, some ministers and governors, among others, held their maiden meeting with Tinubu presiding at Council Chambers of State House, Abuja, and NGF thereafter met with the president at the same venue. The Council of State meeting was attended by former Presidents Muhammadu Buhari and Goodluck Jonathan, with former heads of state General Yakubu Gowon and Abdul Salami Abubakar attending virtually. Ex-President Olusegun Obasanjo and erstwhile military President Ibrahim Babangida were absent. Briefing newsmen after the meetings, Chairman of NGF and Governor of Kwara State, Alhaji Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, stated that the two meetings came up with a resolution to pass a confidence vote on Tinubu following presentations by some of his ministers on the implementation of the renewed hope agenda of the administration.
The high note of the meeting was the unanimous passage of a vote of confidence on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Members, especially those of the Nigerian Governors Forum, were satisfied with the presentation by the members of the Federal Executive Council. And after that meeting, there was an executive session between members of the Nigerian Governors Forum and Mr. President. And frank and fruitful discussions were held between both parties, and I'm glad to say we're on the right track. And in the same vein, members of the NGF also, like the members of the Council of State, passed a vote of confidence on Mr. President.
Some of us ministers were invited to make presentations on our roadmap on what we've been able to achieve, the prospects and the challenges in our various ministries. Our presentations were well received from the feedback that we got immediately after individual presentations. Succinctly put, is just to let the Council of State know the progress being made in each sector of the economy. And the emphasis, of course, by the renewed hope agenda is on economic diversification. The National Security Advisor also was on hand to present the security situation of the country, and he did inform the Council of State, about the pre, during, and post events of the last protests, which I do not call a protest, I call a movement to effect a change of regime by force, which was also resisted. And so, the council thanked Nigerians at large for resisting any unconstitutional move to change government. If anybody is not satisfied with the government, any current administration, there's always an election coming. So you wait for election and cast your vote the way you deem fit. Generally, he allayed everybody's fears and spoke on the tightness of the security around the country, and also reassured all and sundry that nobody will be allowed to truncate our hard-earned democracy.
And we had the opportunity to, in my case, update them on the economy, update them on how far progress had been made in terms of the macroeconomic policies being followed under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And these policies are anchored in his 8 priority areas. And the results to date have been very encouraging. We looked at the data, or we reported on the evidence and the data of this half year for which data was available compared to the first quarter and the second quarter of 2023. And in broad terms, the economy is growing. The balance of payments, in particular, the trade balance and the current account balance, are in surplus. The exchange rate is stabilizing. And inflation, though high, uncomfortably high for the liking of Mr. President and his team, it is slowing and it is set to fall. But in particular, there has been support for the economy from investors, foreign investors by way of portfolio investors, domestic investors who are participating in important private-public partnerships, particularly in the infrastructure sector. And foreign direct investment is beginning to recover, I would say. So on that basis, we looked at we reported on, in particular, the opportunities for the economy once stabilized for investment and growth. And identified for the meeting was the fact that we have exports, goods exports, non-oil exports at $55 billion last year, with tremendous room to grow. And in particular, we identified that the service sector, that is software services, computer services, accounting services, personnel services, which can be provided by young Nigerians staying in Nigeria and providing services through the internet and through telephones. Outsourcing, in a word, was a big area we emphasized. So in a nutshell, we reported that there was good progress being made, that the effort was going to continue to ensure that the interventions and measures to ameliorate the high cost of living for individuals, for the agricultural sector, for industry, for small-scale businesses, were going to continue to be implemented with all efforts needed for success.
All right, Rufai, Vimbai, I don't know how you're feeling about this, but at least we know that the Council of State have passed a vote of confidence. 14 months. What they heard and the presentations from the ministers must have been persuasive enough for them to believe that you're right on track. But I'd like to get your thoughts on this. I'll start with you, Rufai.
For me, the greatest vote of confidence is the vote of confidence on the people. The Council of State are a bunch of former leaders that probably will not bruise the ego of the incumbent leader there. So, I mean, it doesn't count too much, and it's an advisory body in the end. But they said they made a lot of presentations. The question is, what are the parameters of those presentations? Since President Tinubu got in 14 months ago, you've lost the value of the Naira. The Naira has become a joke. When you floated then, the arguments the finance minister made, it was going to find its fair value at 700. Today is 1,006, despite the fact that they're defending heavily through the Dutch auction system. Factories are leaving. You say the economy is growing? GSK has left. Sanofi has left. A couple of other companies have left. The true test is the buoyancy of the economy. Even those that are still in this climb, most of the companies are looking for who to sell to. You know why? You have a big population spread, but a small disposable income. Because the Naira has lost its value. Mr. Dele Alake was talking about what they are doing in the mines sector. The question is, mines used to, and natural resources used to give Nigeria a lot of money. The question we should ask him is, how much is his department bringing back to the federal coffers? We have a lot of gold. Why are we not reaping the gold money? Look at Ghana, they're just opening a new gold refinery. Yeah. We're seeing countries doing well. South Africa, diamonds and the likes. When is Nigeria going to bring that resource in? The NSA briefed in insecurity. We are still seeing the massive activities of banditry across board. We're seeing kidnappings, we're seeing hurts of people. So when you look at it, the sum total is, the people's cry in town is Ibi Power. So I think the vote of confidence the people are saying is Ibi. That's the vote we're passing on President Tinubu. So, like the Governors Forum passed a vote of confidence on him, the question is your life better now than it was before? Can we compare with 8 years ago? No. It's a sad song. They will say they've made some gains. Yes. They will say they've given CNG buses and the likes. Yes, and all of that. Is it pervasive enough? Is it far-reaching enough? The truth doesn't hide.
The truth doesn't hide. Is it far-reaching? What is the vote of confidence of the people? Vima, your take on this story?
Oh, the vote of confidence of the people, I think that's what we're really looking for. And as much as we have to applaud the president for opening up these various fora of interaction and exchange with leaders and elders and former leaders, I think it's very important that these fora of exchange need to be opened up with the people. When we spoke of protests, it was largely driven by young people. We saw President William Ruto of Kenya coming to Twitter or X to do a space with young people to interact. We saw him holding a media parley. That's the kind of confidence boost we're looking for. Let's get some engagement going directly with the people. A number of issues to break down. Let me get through them as quickly as I can. The next was the submission that stuck out to me was a submission by the NSA, which also included the fact that a number of people, I believe 4 political actors who are said to be political actors, have been identified for funding about 4 billion naira towards the protests. I believe about 83 billion naira has also been frozen from cryptocurrency accounts that is said to have been pumped into the protests. We heard Minister Dele Alake, they're making a submission saying, as far as he was concerned, it was not a protest, it was a movement for regime change. Now, I just want to urge us to be very, very careful not to merge issues between protest and the hunger protest that happened with genuine Nigerians who took to the streets to try and express where the shoe pinches for them. Let's separate that from the insurrection, the criminality that we saw taking place in some places. I think it's very important for us not to merge those issues and to just create one big umbrella that says protest. Very, very important, because there were genuine protesters. Unfortunately, yes, there were also some bad actors.
Let me start from there, because that stood out for me in the minister, Mr. Dele Alake's press briefing, where he said that they wanted to take over by force, to end the regime, and so that was what they stood up for. That consistent messaging by some government officials makes it clear that they possibly, again, have not heard the cry of the people. The reason why protests happen in some instances is that people who feel like their voices are not being heard believe that that's one way to get their voices heard by powers that be. Now, if the interpretation by powers that be is consistently that this is just an attack on us without taking the salient points from the aggrieved people, then it's very sad. I hope he would read the article again yesterday by Miss Onikepo Braithwaite in the This Day newspaper yesterday, where she highlighted some key takeaways from the End Bad Governance protest and some quick wins, low-hanging fruits. And the people would feel perhaps more heard if the presidency and government officials would acknowledge some of the needs and the asks of the people. It would present a better front. That's one. The other thing that was very clear at yesterday's Council of State meeting was the absence of former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Now, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has been quite vocal in recent times, and I would have thought that his presence there would have added value. The president doesn't want to surround himself with just yes men or people who just say, oh, you're doing fantastic, well done, keep going. He wants to also have people around him who will tell him the truth. Things that are maybe not favorable to his ears, but at least would present. In the interview with FT, and I'll say this finally, President Olusegun Obasanjo, former president, had said that fuel subsidy removal should not have been done that way, that we should a transformational economy as opposed to a transactional economy. Some important things, and that's why we have an advisory board, to advise. But so many things, and I'm sure in the course of today's show, we would have opportunities to really dissect and unbundle yesterday's Council of State meeting.